I don't know if Drew Bannister's a good coach because they just didn't give him enough time or ingredients for us to find that out. Obviously, that team has been struggling, but this guy got fucked sideways.
Let's talk all things Jim Montgomery, because to the surprise of, I want to say to the surprise of no one, because like I was like, oh my God, it happened. But Bruins fire coach gets head coaching job is just how this works. Happened with Claude Julien. It happened with Bruce Cassidy. Both those guys, I want to say Cassidy, I think technically was 8 days, but it was right away.
Cassidy
was 5 days.
It was less than
I think
a week.
Claude was maybe technically 8 days.
I think Claude was 8,
Okay.
Cassidy was 6, and
this
Monty's
is 5.
Yeah.
But they get scooped up right away. Jeff Merrick said with us this past week, hey, keep an eye on the Blues. Maybe they do the fire their coach to hire their guy sort of thing. Shout out Drew Bannister. Got absolutely boned here.
Fucked. Yeah.
Fucked. 22 games. This is the second straight year in which the Blues have fired their head coach before U.S. Christmas.
Yeah.
And didn't feel bad about it.
I don't know if Drew Bannister's a good coach because they just didn't give him enough time or ingredients for us to find that out. Obviously, that team has been struggling, but this guy got fucked sideways.
He absolutely got fucked sideways, but Sean and I were talking about this before the show. That is the kind of team that, quote unquote, gets to do that, to like fire the coach before they find out if the coach is good, because they don't have a good roster.
Right.
One of their most promising players is hurt. Like, they're not going to win games right now, and I'll get to this in a second. Anyway, if you think you can get the coach that's going to be the coach when you're good again, what are you going to be? Is it going to make you worse this year? Even if it does, who fucking cares?
And I mean, they gave Monty a 5-year deal, so they're in this. They are very horny for Jim Montgomery. It's unbelievable. But I mean, there were also like seeds of frustration about Bannister within that locker room already. I just think like he hasn't had enough runway. It was 20 something games.
22 games. He goes 39, 31, and 6 in 76 games behind the bench. He took over as interim last season, and I don't think we were too excited either way about Drew Bannister. But I don't know. I get a little excited by this, where I'm like, hey, give that guy a chance to be exciting. But this is the NHL. I mean, it happened in Boston. Mike Sullivan probably didn't deserve to get fired, but GM came in, wanted his guy. Things like this happen. They are 13th, are the Blues, in the Western Conference by points percentage, 432. 6 of their next 7 games are on the road. And Pete, I specifically told you, do not look at the Blues' upcoming schedule, because I want to tell you what it is. The Bruins famously had an easy schedule ahead when they fired Jim Montgomery. So far, so good, kind of, for them. Here is the upcoming schedule. Let me give you their next 7 games.
Okay.
At Rangers.
Well, they're like currently on for sale.
Mm-hmm. At Devils.
Okay.
Home versus the Flyers.
Okay, that's a good one.
At Jets.
Tough.
At Flames.
Tough.
At Oilers.
Tough.
At Canucks.
Tough.
Jim Montgomery
That's tough.
might get 1 point out of his first month.
That Western Canada trip could be like nice for like team bonding, for getting acclimated to the new guy. I don't know if they're going to win a lot of games, but it might be nice for like establishing rapport.
I mentioned the Boston Bruins. We were saying, like, if you're barely hanging in games with the St. Louis Blues, you got to fire your coach. Can we get a little conspiracy theory there?
What do you mean? Like that the Blues...
Suddenly the Blues are getting points off the Bruins.
The Blues like played extra hard so that they could...
No.
Oh, you think that Monty threw?
What do you know?
Well, I mean, it seems like
Peter?
Jim Montgomery and the Blues seem extremely horny for each other at this point. Sean, do you have the quote that came from Doug Armstrong? Because, my God, Doug Armstrong said, or I guess Montgomery said that Doug Armstrong told him the best line... Can you read the text?
Jim Montgomery said Doug Armstrong is very persuasive. This tweet, by the way, is from Matthew DeFranks. How Montgomery said, quote, the best line that put his hooks into me was, quote, when something delicious falls on my plate, I eat. So I don't know. I guess I was a T-bone that day, end quote.
Doug Armstrong calling Jim Montgomery something delicious. It's fucking weird.
Brother,
You're either thirsty or horny. It's one of the two.
Brother,
Just real
Just-
Horn City there. And also just like, yo, I'm going to eat you.
Yeah.
No, you're not.
I
We're
mean,
not
you
gonna
could
work
be you
together.
could be onto something here, one way or the other. Like maybe the Blues played extra hard against the Bruins. No, although they probably didn't need to because the Bruins were awful, and like maybe Monty threw a little bit, but I don't know. Like the performance against the Blues wasn't drastically different than any other team that the Bruins played.
And really, the performance for the Bruins since firing Jim Montgomery hasn't been much different from what they. I mean, they have won both games without Jim Montgomery and with Joe Sacco as head coach, and they have scored as many goals, 3 in these 2 games, as they did in their final 2 games with Jim Montgomery. So they eked by the hockey club, and they eked by the Red Wings, and those are like I talk about the Bruins now, maybe the way that we talk about the Sabres. Like, you're gonna get those points or not, boys.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like you can't really complain when they're banking those points. The Bruins absolutely need to bank points at this point. But I don't think that anybody's looking at this team like they look largely the same. They're just defending a little bit better.
Derek Lalonde, Mike Sullivan, Marty St. Louis. Who's next?
We all silly like the mayor.